Hello and welcome to episode 9 of Analyst podcast with myself, Richard, and of course Colin Sisson. We're extremely fortunate today to have a guest with us who I'm hoping is going to provide us some very insightful commentary on what it's like on the sharp end of the analytical side of the game, and that's Notts County's tactical analyst, Joao Alves. Hello, Joao. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you? Pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Good. And you too. So
yeah,
go on, Colin.
Yeah, I was just going to say one of the. It feels like I almost know Joao already, because if regular watchers are noticing that I'm looking a little bit kind of more bleary-eyed than usual, it's because Football Manager was just released, or the demo of it was released last night. So there was an awful lot of kind of up until the early hours of the morning. And one of the things that myself and Richard found fascinating, but also as a motivation to kind of put this approach together, and even the name Analyst Bar, the idea of kind of bringing people together in a kind of social way to talk about football and analytics, which obviously is still in its infancy in British football, is the amount of people that we engage with on a kind of day-to-day basis on Twitter, for example. Follow them, comment, etc., exchange emails, those sort of things, a bit of advice and stuff, and they're turning up on the game incredibly regularly as well, so it's a fascinating thing. And Joao, like I said, we were just talking a little bit off air about Football Manager, and you were a keen player previously, is that right?
Yeah, so back in uni days, I the date that it came out was definitely a date on the calendar, but yeah, ever since I haven't really played that much. I've already received a few messages with my my profile, and yeah, there's been some comments thrown at it. Let's put it that way.
So how does your skills on the game compare to real life then, or haven't you had the chance to have a look yet?
Oh yeah, definitely too low. Definitely too low. No, it's hard to compare with the rest of the industry in that. But I'm pretty happy. I'll take the 11 in tactical knowledge or whatever it is. I'll bang on.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, like I say, I've not made the grade at the moment, so I'm just incredibly jealous as it is. And like I say, seeing the various people on Twitter, like I say, you've kind of just followed and followed their journey and finding their profiles up there as well. It's a fantastic thing, and I think also kind of sort of joking aside, quite a reassuring kind of idea that pathways into football and into Football Manager are probably a little bit more open than they used to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's more roles, there's more information flooding in football, so there'll just be more people around it. And it's not just more people around it, there'll also be more knowledge of the people that are around it. I think it's a bit more open these days. So yeah, there's definitely a pathway. I think it's my I know for a fact it's my debut on it, and it feels different. But yeah, there's definitely a pathway to it.
Excellent. So that kind of really takes us on to yourself again, Joao, and your background and how you've kind of the journey you've taken to kind of end up where you are now at Notts County. Would you be able to just give us a little bit of an overview of your experience and how you started off? And is it something that you particularly always wanted to do from an early age as well?
Yeah, so I've played since an early age, since maybe I was about 6 or 7, for a team in my hometown called Maritimo. Played for them until I was maybe in the 19s, then came to uni. Then I came to uni here actually, because because it was an island in Madeira, I wanted to go and just have more opportunity and more or less limitations on what I was going to be able to do. So I came over to England, studied over here, and then I just started on as an analyst at Football Radar. I just basically built my way up through there, and then I joined Notts County. It's fair to say that I was pretty lucky with my upbringing, in the sense that for example, my brother-in-law is an ex-pro that played for Maritimo. There's another 2 people in my family that were professional athletes. So it's something that was kind of like normal to be in the sport. I've got two sisters. They're both sports science graduates. So yeah, that's kind of where the journey and how it took me here.
Okay.
I'd also say I was really lucky with my coaches at Maritima. Just really lucky. I randomly, like, you don't know at the time, but you know that they're really good. But these guys went on to be like, one of them was assistants to Leonardo Jardim, who's won it at Monaco. So that's like, we didn't know this was happening at the time, obviously, but he's really good. And that also like definitely changed the way I thought and processed football.
Oh, okay. So you came over to England to uni. I mean, you must have been quite young then to come over. Must have been, what, 18, 19 years old?
I was actually 17, to be fair.
17,
because
wow.
because I was born in Jan, and I basically skipped a year. I think that's how you say it in here. So I just went straight into first year when I was 5, year 1. I don't know what you call it.
Okay. And had you been over to England before then as a youngster, or was this your first time travelling?
No, that was my first time. Time.
So it was quite daunting then.
Yeah, but I'll be honest with you. At the time, I didn't really. I was just excited to be out of the islands and like into a place where I thought was going to give me a lot more possibility to grow and explore and expand.
Yeah. So you've been UK based then ever since then, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So after university then, was it straight from university that you ended up at Football Radar?
Yeah, so I did like a year back home after uni, where I was kind of doing bits and that weren't football related, and then I did a bit of scouting for a company that was just being like built. So basically, again, because it was an island, it was this, like, I can call it a friend of mine because he developed into it. He's started this company to be able to give visibility to young players in Madeira, because there's less scouts because obviously you need to get a plane to go there. And so we were basically looking for players that we thought were maybe a bit under the radar, that we could push to get trials in mainland Portugal. So yeah, I did a bit of that. That wasn't full time, but yeah, I did a bit of that, and it was really good, to be fair.
Yeah, it would have given you some valuable experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Just it forced me to start thinking a bit deeper into what does it look like when you're good and you're 15, and what does it look like when you want to be good at 21, but do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be good at 15 in certain areas, or at least like in your impact in football matches. So it started to make me think about that.
No, definitely, because it's a big thing when you're looking at 15, 16-year-olds, because you still don't know how they're going to change from a physicality point of view, do you? So there's quite a bit of guesswork involved in that as well, I suppose.
Yeah, so on that as well, it's physicality, it's social maturation. Like, some people just get confident later on in life. It makes a big difference, actually. So yeah, there was a bit on that definitely started my my development.
And that's very sort of topical at the moment, isn't it? Because I don't know if you've seen, but there's been a lot of media attention around Arsenal. Well, it's the parents, isn't it, rather than Arsenal announcing that they've recruited a 4-year-old for their pre-academy. And it's brought a lot of these topics to the fore, like you were saying, about maturation, about kind of, you've talked about how difficult it is to identify even someone at, let's say, under 15. So this kind of race to the bottom that we're seeing with a lot of the kind of really top Premier League clubs seems to be kind of poorly sort of thought through. But then again, you understand with how competitive it is, you can kind of understand where that attitude comes from.
Yeah, and I think, I'm not going to lie. So I went recently to a conference. Ralph Ragnick was there. He said something that I thought was really interesting. He said that they backtracked on all these really good players that they've seen. So like Mbappe, Haaland, all these guys. And they watched them when they were 15, because now it's possible. Maybe 10, 15 years ago it wouldn't be, because you wouldn't have footage of, I don't know, like Mulder 15s. Maybe you would, I don't know. And they said that you could tell straight away that those guys were special. So I think on this real special cases you can, but I'm talking 15s, maybe not 4-year-olds. But I think the rest is just very hard. I agree.
Excellent. So tell us a little bit about what you did at Football Radar then. So I think you held a couple of different positions there over, I think, nearly 7 or 8 years that you were at Football Radar. So I'm assuming that probably started off as a watcher.
Yeah.
And maybe you can, for the benefit of the people listening or watching, if you could just give us a little bit of an overview of what being a watcher is in a company like Football Radar.
Yeah. It is basically watch matches, a lot of matches, and apply their framework into it, which is, it helps development as well, to be fair. Because it is a new way of seeing football, and you can get knowledge from everywhere. And from there, I went into other projects, kind of helped build a few different ways of analyzing football. Then was briefly data quality manager, which kind of like just making sure that everything's like, every registration is as we want it to be. And then I got moved to Notts County. I came to Notts County specific situations.
Yeah. So from that then, moving on, obviously that's given you a really good grounding on the tactical analysis side of the game, which has kind of pointed you to where you are now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was very clear for everyone that was around that I was more interested in the actual giving context to the data than collecting and registering the data itself. I think that came from, I saw something and I just couldn't deal with the fact that I can't go and fix it, if that makes sense. So like, I would see someone doing something that I wasn't like, that I thought, okay, this could be better, but then I can't pick up the phone and ring him and go, do you know what? This is what I think you need to do to become a better player. So I think it became clear from that perspective. So I just moved. It was almost natural for me to move into the club scene. I've been wanting it for a while. So yeah, when they spoke to me about it, I was very happy.
And do you have any role models, or in terms of thinking about your role and thinking about moving forward in terms of that? I mean, you mentioned somebody who I can't stop reading an awful lot about in terms of Ralph Rangnick, and really, I've been kind of almost hopefully get involved in the Newcastle project that's going on, because I think that would be a fascinating aspect. Is there anybody whose work that you're really interested in and kind of seeing it apply to your own job?
To be fair, like if we're talking about ways of playing the game and identities and that, I would pick someone more through the center that isn't so much direct, isn't so much like Pep Guardiola or Klopp, and more someone in the center, because I do like the variability of the play, which is like you play short to play long, so you attract and then you create the space and you play long. But then if they're not coming out, then you have to do something different, and that variability is important. Important to the way that I like to watch the game and I like to see the game. So it's hard to put a name on it. I guess I just try to steal a lot of ideas from a lot of everything that you see. And I think as you reflect, you also just come up with some of your own stuff, which is really good. But it's about reflection and, okay, why is this happening? Really trying to break down these situations.
Yeah, that was something I was going to come on to, actually, because you went to the Coach's Voice conference, as you said. Were there any other kind of key takeaways that really resonated with you? I know obviously you've mentioned one earlier, but I didn't know if there's anything else.
There was a few. Like the real big one for me is that there's a lot of knowledge around. And I know everybody takes that for granted, but not everybody acts like that. So there is a lot of knowledge around, and you can learn a lot from these guys, a lot from all of them, even with different styles and different communication styles and all sorts. But also, I thought that, for example, one thing that stuck out to me a lot as well with Ralph was that he really buys into what he's doing. So, like, he believes in that identity. He loves that identity. He doesn't see football being played any differently. And that's where his power is coming from, in my opinion. And I think he reflects it. He reflects about his experiences like that as well. It's like, if you're not super confident of the way that you play, it's easy to get, because football's a low scoring sport, it's easy to get a couple of bad results and go, do you know what, this isn't working. Let me do something different. Whereas if you really believe in what you're doing, what you end up doing is you end up trying to fix the problem within your game model and within your identity, which then makes everyone understand, okay, we're not going to bounce back and forth. We're just going to keep doing this. We just need to do it better. So I think that was a big key point. Neil Bath's, Chelsea's academy manager, I think he is. His was really good as well. It was a lot. It was a more like holistic presentation where he's talking about how they deal with players, how they have all these different models, to not data models, but just like models of organization to deal with different situations. One of the good examples was they do this players box chart where, like, in the y-axis you've got energy, and then in the x-axis you've got attitude. So if you've got like a positive energy, positive attitude, then you're in the players box. If you've got positive energy, bad attitude, then you're a
work in progress.
cynic or something like that. If you've got positive attitude but not much energy, then you're just a victim, or you're a bit more lazy. You're a spectator. And then if you're low energy, I'm getting confused here, but low energy, bad attitude, then you're a victim. So I just think it's very interesting to process the information, draw back on why is it not working for you? What can you do to be better? Can you get back into the player's box? That's how you get out of situations. And it's just a really nice format to just push people into being better every day. So there's a lot of these little things.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So on a day-to-day basis at the moment then within the club, and I'm not going to ask you to give away any secrets or anything like that, but for you personally, are you more involved in helping individual players' performance and analysing their performance and helping them to grow, or are you looking at the whole team, the whole game tactically, opposition? Where do you fit in all of that?
So I do pre-match, so like opposition, and I do post-match, which is more focused on a reflection of the game.
Sure.
And then I do bits on players. Sometimes the players come and ask for stuff as well, which is really good, because straight away they've they're owning their own learning process, which is really good. I don't really have a set area. I try to do as much I can. We've also got the training cameras, which are brilliant because that makes us be able to just reflect back on training. We can, if we want to give feedback straight on training, we can do that. Just bring an iPad out, show them something that's really good or really bad or whatever it might be. So I do bits on that as well.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a bit of everything. I think because I work mainly from a team perspective, but obviously better if the players get better, then the team will get better. Because it's a cyclical process. Is that a word, cyclical?
Yeah, it is.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I guess I do a bit of everything on that scenario.
Okay, and that buy-in from the players as well is really important, isn't it? And I suppose from your point of view, you'd find it. You'd be in a position where that little X and Y axis that you were talking about, you're probably a bit more observant of those kind of traits as well. I'm not saying that that's something that you're doing here, but you'll see that, and getting that buy-in and understanding from the players, I'm assuming is such a massive part of what you're doing as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's at least halfway because it's much easier. I think I don't know the studies, but I'm pretty sure this is proven. But when you own your learning process, then you learn much better, much quicker. So that's a really big part of the learning process and like the getting better process. So yeah, definitely that's really big.
What would you say you in the role that you're in now? What would you say are the biggest challenges that you would normally face?
So there's obviously the situation of you always want to try to do more because you can always get better, right? Like you can at any level you can always get better. So there's always something that you can be looking at. So I think you have to accept sometimes that okay, I don't have time to do everything that I want to do. That's a bit of a challenge, but in general, yeah, I think I'm really like what's the word? I'm really positive about like the environment that we're in, and it's a really good place to be. And it's not so much about challenges right now; it's more about like how the environment is really good for everything that we're trying to do. So I think the biggest challenges are actually to take a step back and go, okay, I can't look at one more game, I can't look at one more session. But yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge.
Okay. With the opposition analysis, then obviously, if we look at tomorrow's game, for example, a very, very big game, and again, I'm not going to ask you to divulge anything that you really don't want to be divulging, but you know, if you look at tomorrow's game from your point of view, how far in advance are you starting to collate that data and start analysing that data about your opposition so that you've got that timing just right for kickoff?
So I'll just start by saying that we have a data scientist.
Okay.
So he'll collate more the data and fire it across. I can tell you that we get the data after the recovery session. So if we play Saturday, we get a recovery session Monday. By Tuesday or Monday evening, Tuesday morning, we have it so that we can start planning for what the sessions might be going forwards. I come in more at the context part of the data, which is okay. Are my eyes making sense of what this data is telling me? Can I add some context to it to make sure that we like that we understand. I'll give you an example. Sometimes there's a shot on target that's from the halfway line. Ruben's tried a few. There you
Yeah.
go. Ruben's tried a few. Sometimes it goes on target, but sometimes like the keeper can just easy save, pick it up. That is data that, in my opinion, needs context. So it's more about making sure that that gets the context that it needs, and yeah, we go from there. But in terms of, for example, it's not really replying to your question directly, but how early I start looking at teams, it'll be so that it's ready for that Monday as well.
Okay. So you're literally in a cycle of maybe 9 or 10 days before a game, already starting to look at and
When I
preparing
can,
that information. Yeah.
Saturdays to Saturdays, yes. So when Tuesdays
interesting.
come around, it gets a bit trickier.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the challenges of what we're doing.
Okay. Just talking about tomorrow's game as well, then, and obviously all the planning that would have gone into that.
Yeah.
Well, obviously we've just seen that Stockport have signed Serčević from Bolton, and he's available tomorrow. I don't know if you saw it, but I did my little preview and put that up today, and I've done quite a bit of a analysis there on areas that I felt that they were going to be quite dangerous, and some of the players there. And if he plays tomorrow, that might as well just go straight out the bloody window. But that must be quite frustrating as well when you've put a lot of work into something, and then you have to look and say, well, how much of a difference is that going to make to the work that you've already done?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to, in my opinion, this is it's a mental issue rather than anything else. It goes back to accepting that you can't do what you can't do. So like if you go to bed tonight and you go, okay, I've done everything I can't know what the dynamics. I can imagine what the dynamics of the game would be if he comes in and he slots in the centre mid role for one of the other two centre mids. Then I can imagine that he's going to be asked similar things, but I can't be too sure yet. So it's a bit of it's frustrating, but only to the extent that you let it be frustrating, because, as I said, you can't really do anything about it. So you move on. You try to channel your energies into something that
well, I think for me, it goes back to something you said as well, that about half the battle is also about improving ourselves as a club and making sure that we're doing the right things, because again, there are so many variables in terms of the opposition and those sort of things that actually we go back and we make sure that our sort of game modeling is right, that we've got the information that we need to be successful. And I think, to probably give some feedback to yourself and to the club, one of the things that's reassured me with obviously the shock that went out on social media, when this sort of signing was announced, was there was an awful lot of Notts fans who obviously we'd all love, the club to be able to go out and buy the very top players that are available. But actually there was a large core of fans that were understanding that we've got a particular approach, we've got a particular model that we're going to follow. And so I think that's quite reassuring from a fan base point of view, the fans going to the game, that we understand that obviously the club have got their approach and are trying to make themselves better within those parameters. And I think it's probably also, as reassuring to hear that the players are coming to people like you as well in order to be able to make themselves better. Because again, that's going to counteract the, should we say, the Hollywood signings that are happening at other clubs.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you touched briefly there on a big point for us and I can use Ralph as an example again, but it goes back to knowing exactly what you want, knowing exactly what you're looking for. It helps because we're talking about analysis as well, because if we know exactly what we want and we know exactly what we're looking for, then we'll all in the room look in a very similar way, which is a big challenge in football. Because if you're not aligned in what you're doing and you've got a team of 5 analysts, then it becomes pretty tricky to know who's saying what and why, and it just gets a bit blurry. So I think we that is a big plus of what we're doing. We know exactly what we're trying to get. We're obviously going to miss sometimes, but we know in the room what profiles that we're after, and I think that's very helpful actually, because it goes back to the identity.
Yeah,
well, definitely, and I think there is an element now within the fan base, the Notts fan base, that a large proportion of the fan base understand what's trying to be achieved and how that identity is being built and structured, and in the fact that obviously it's an identity that's going to help the club, a structure that's going to help the club, not just this season or next season, but obviously in the long term. And it's taken a while for some people to try and understand that and get their heads around that. But I can see that it's happening. As Colin was saying, there seems to be a lot more people in the fan base now on side with that. You still get people that throw their dummy out of the pram because we've not gone and signed Chimanga or a Paddy Madden or whatever. But who's to say that would be the right signing? With the identity that we're going to be playing with, and certainly as somebody myself, I mean, I started watching Notts County back in the 1970s, so I've seen a whole range of ups and downs and historical events happen throughout the club, and you kind of get a feel for when the club's being run well and when it's not being run well, and if there's trouble around the corner. And from my point of view, I get a really good feeling about the way the club's being run at the moment and the people involved in the club, and even just speaking to yourself, and you've obviously got a passion for what you're doing, but that passion comes out for the club as well, and for the team, for the whole team to be able to be successful. So that's really encouraging from a fan's point of view.
Yeah, I'm glad that you guys are like that you think that way. I think football's an emotional sport, so because it's emotional, it's hard to please everyone. But we really believe in what we're doing, and I think that's the most important thing, that we will try to sort out any problems that we have with our identity, and that will be, in my opinion, what will make us come good in the future.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. So you're obviously working at Notts now. Have you based yourself in Nottingham now, or are you traveling from elsewhere?
I'm in the process of moving actually.
Okay.
It'll be end of the month, but yeah, I've been going back and forth, not daily, but I've been going back down on days off. And staying up during training days and match days. So that's been a bit of a challenge as well. I guess I forgot that one. That's been a bit of a challenge.
But are you finding the opportunity to discover a bit about Nottingham, or you've not been able to do that much lately?
I'm not going to lie, not so much. Just because with the commute that I've been doing, sometimes I'm kind of missing out on hours of work, so then I have to put them back in when I'm up in Notts, and yeah, as I said before, like I'm probably going to do that when my wife's up a bit more, but for now I'm just happy because there's so much to be done, and you can always get better, so I'm just happy to get going and doing stuff that I think will be helpful for the club.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, Joao, to have you on. Really appreciate you finding the time to sit down and give us a little insight into yourself, your experience, and a little bit of what's going off behind the scenes as well, which might help to be a bit more informative for some of the fan base that probably don't quite understand it. So I really do appreciate your time and spending that with us, and hopefully the work that you've done in the last week's going to do the job tomorrow, and come 5 o'clock tomorrow we're all going home with a big smile on our faces.
Yeah, I second that.
Okay, well, that's absolutely great. Thank you so much for joining us.
It's my pleasure, guys. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Just before we go again, obviously it'd be great if people could like, subscribe, and share. That will be absolutely fantastic. Okay. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Cheers.